know what the Switch needs? More Zelda. More specifically, and more importantly, more 2D Zelda. After the franchise made its move to 3D with Ocarina of Time, the classic puzzle-based dungeon crawler was still in fine form, and the franchise's most recent entry, Breath of the Wild, shows just how the series can still iterate while innovating all at the same time. Ever since Wind Waker, Nintendo has continued to release larger 3D Zelda games while still releasing smaller, more focused 2D games for its handheld systems. Things like Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, Phantom Hourglass, Minish Cap, and A Link Between Worlds. But it's been a while since Nintendo has made a great 2D Zelda game, which had me thinking, when is the next 2D Zelda coming? And is it coming to Switch? Yes, it's coming to Switch. The Legend of Zelda has never been a series that has rested on its laurels, so the only thing that we can say for sure is that once it does come out, it'll probably have some changes, especially after the reception of Breath of the Wild. Nintendo took a lot of risks with that game. They turned The Legend of Zelda into this big open world game about exploration, and yeah, you can argue that has always kind of been a part of the series, but this was on a level unheard of for the franchise. This was largely thanks to Nintendo looking outward to what other companies like Bethesda were doing with the adventure RPG genre over the last decade. Things like Elder Scrolls learned from The Legend of Zelda, so too Nintendo learned from Bethesda. They made their own Nintendo version of Skyrim and placed Link into this incredibly huge Hyrule and made a beautiful game full of experimentation. There weren't as many towns or NPCs to find, instead focusing on the nature of the world around you. Even the producers talked about how worried they were on if the fan base would welcome the game with open arms or immediately rant about it on every internet forum known to man. They were proud of what they had accomplished, but it wasn't guaranteed to be the success that it was. Even Wind Waker, one of the more highly regarded entries into the series, had immediate criticism that it wasn't the Legend of Zelda tech demo. Now, what would happen if we apply the same concept and learn from newer games that have sprung up around them? Could Nintendo make one of the best 2D dungeon crawlers of all time? Maybe, but here's what we think they need to do. Let's start with the multiplayer. Calm down, I get it. Not everything needs to be multiplayer, and I'm not saying all Zelda games for the rest of all time should be these massive 4-player co-op online action RPGs, but Nintendo is the king of co-op, especially couch co-op. They're really pushing the idea of Nintendo Switch being able to play anywhere with anyone you'd like. Several of their games are specifically advertised around this. Nintendo's entire E3 presentation was centered around this idea of playing with friends and family. Do we need any more reasoning to why Nintendo obviously thinks multiplayer is a big deal? It's also not something entirely new to the franchise. Four Swords toyed around with this back on the GameCube, and Triforce Heroes on 3DS kept that ball moving. These weren't perfect. Triforce Heroes was notorious for its lack of communication skills, and its one-player version was a slog moving between the three heroes. Games like Enter the Gungeon would be a great place to start. Having dungeons become a mix of handmade rooms and randomly generated combinations can make every time you enter a dungeon new and exciting, while still full of complex and interesting puzzles for you and your friends. They can even introduce support for multiple Nintendo Switch consoles like the upcoming Super Mario Party. Place two Switches next to each other, pull off the Joy-Con, and you have 4-player Zelda going on. It wouldn't be a new mode to start up or load. Just hand your friend a Joy-Con while in a dungeon and bam! You have a 2-player couch co-op game of Zelda going. Of course, this idea should work over the upcoming Nintendo Switch Online too. I love couch co-op, from Donkey Kong Country to New Super Mario Bros. To Kirby Star Allies. Maybe not Kirby Star Allies, but you get the point. The company has excelled in bringing friends and family together through their games. Now they are doing this with the Nintendo Switch Online service, adding online multiplayer support to several NES games. With things like voice chat through the Nintendo Switch Online app, or hopefully through the console so people can shut up, or if you're like me, Discord, they can take many of the concepts from Triforce Heroes and make them actually work. Now, this isn't saying you need to play multiplayer. The game should work however you want to play it. You could always play by yourself in single player mode, freely switching between characters on the fly, Simply make one of the bumper buttons just flip through characters so you can keep up with combat without missing a beat. Of course, the other characters will fight alongside you controlled by the CPU. This would be great for anyone who just wants to play through a traditional single-player Zelda game with a great story. A big part of this is how they approach characters. Four Swords had 4 links and Triforce Heroes had 3 links. Let's change it up. I guess you could make the argument that maybe everyone wants to be Link, but I think adding some other characters to the roster could do a lot for this game. The Kingdom of Hyrule is vast, and between all of its different forms, it has plenty of characters to pull from. Hell, you could easily fill out a roster of characters as big as Kirby Star Allies if you wanted to, but that's not what I'm suggesting. I think Princess Zelda is a staple that needs to be playable by now. The titular princess has been given time to shine in Smash Bros. And Hyrule Warriors, and it's about time she did so in a proper Legend of Zelda game. I also like the idea of adding Vaati and Tetra from the Wind Waker, Spirit Track, Minish Cap, etc. Both can play differently than the series' traditional hero. There is also a great opportunity with Vaati's backstory there. Make him more of an antagonist rather than a full-fledged villain. He was already an interesting character, but giving him the Vegeta treatment could really push him up in the non-existing character popularity polls.
He's so cool!
Combat wise, I would even pull some basic RPG team building here. You have Zelda, the cleric with the wind, water, and light magic, Vaati, the mage with fire, ice, and lightning, Tetra as the rogue thief, and Link as the warrior. Make all of them play slightly different, have unique abilities, and use those abilities for the different puzzles you encounter. No more of that, let's make a tower stuff, or changing costumes for different abilities like Triforce Heroes. You could also pull from Legend of Mana and have each character have their own major storyline. I'm not talking 1 or 2 side quests here or there. In Legend of Mana, you had multiple chapters with NPCs that would join your party for a short while, then leave until you run into them again, starting their next chapter. They were actually a lot like what Octopath Traveler would do some 20 years later, which had me thinking, let's apply this to the Zelda franchise. Give Link a handful of companions, possibly the 3 aforementioned characters, who all have their own reason to complete this adventure. Each has their own interactions with townspeople. Yes, we'll save Hyrule and defeat Ganon or whatever evil plagues the kingdom, blah blah blah, but let's also focus on the characters and their motivations. Maybe the reason Link goes out on this journey isn't the same as Tetra's. I'm sure it's not the same as Vaati's reason either, and that's the point. Let's add more personalities to the mix. Link could remain the voiceless hero of time or whatever his current title is, but that doesn't mean the princess or the other companions would just be quiet and enjoy the ride. You could even take this further by having townsfolk interact with the hero differently than the princess. Maybe something similar to Octopath Traveler's differing abilities could also be a part of the game. Tetra could charm items off of townspeople or even haggle down prices at the local shop, while Link can become a hero for hire with additional side quests or hunts at a local tavern. Something that fits the personality of these characters without changing their moral compass or personality. I want to expand the relationships of these characters both with each other and the world around them, while also connecting the player to the people around them. But those are my thoughts. What do you want to see in the next 2D Zelda game? Do you think it's coming to Switch? When do you think it's coming to Switch? Let me know that and more in the comments down below. This video was mostly written by Justin with some rearrangement from me. Logan couldn't publish a video as we thought he might be able to, still going through personal stuff. But make sure to let us know what you want to see next, and check out our website for more content that you won't see here, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for new videos every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. New podcasts every Saturday on our podcast channel directly to you, linked in the description. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.